On this episode of Real Wins, we chat about the best practices for a renter nurturing game plan, when to roll it out, what to include or exclude, and the overall timeline headed into a property's CO date. If you find this and our other episodes helpful, please like and subscribe on YouTube or your preferred podcast listening app. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. All right, Mike, welcome in to another episode of Real Wins. Congratulations, we made it to 10. It's a big milestone.
No, I didn't even know. This is episode 10. All right, sweet.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
10 down, another 100 to go, or something like that.
That's right.
How's everything going? You have a new background over there today?
Yep, it's my work from home week here, 4th of July week for us while we're recording. So, trying to mix it up a little bit, get a new background for everyone to see if they're watching on video, and maybe enjoy a little bit of sun this week. That'd be nice too. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gearing up for a bike race this weekend. I've been training for it this year, so I'm ready to just rip the legs off and have a good weekend doing some mountain bike riding, and then heading to Boston next week to get all the team together and have some fun. So hopefully we'll see some more sunshine and some happy faces. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad to have you guys in Boston. Be excited to see you in person again. And for sure. And also good luck with the bike race. That sounds something I would hate to do, but I know you're into it. So enjoy. How long is the distance?
It is. It's a 50 miler out in Leadville, Colorado. So it's the distance isn't the thing. It's the elevation. I think we start at around 10,000 feet, 10,500 feet, and we work our way up to over 12. So it's really the climbing and the altitude over that distance that gets you. Yeah. So I gotta just focus on pacing myself and getting it done.
Jesus, good luck with that, man. I literally need an oxygen mask just thinking about it.
Just a bunch of people suffering together, So that's all it is.
Good for you. Good for you.
Kind of revisiting a sister topic to something that we recently discussed. And today we're going to cover what we're kind of calling the renter nurturing game plan. Previously, we talked about activation and what that looks like, and we can circle back to that before we dive in. But this question came up from a few different people after our previous conversation and after some posts that we had put up on LinkedIn just about the topic in recent weeks. And so I want to dive in, and I'm going to kick it over to you first, Mike, just to set the stage for this idea of nurturing, this keyword of nurturing. What does that mean? Because I actually have seen quite a few comments from very well-respected and well-known leaders in the industry who they themselves are not necessarily sure what nurturing means, or at least when we're talking about nurturing, what even is that? So let's just start there and try to set the stage a little bit and get at nurturing. What is that?
Yeah, look, I think the bigger picture point of view is even for some of the teams, and whether it's developers or operators or marketers out there who think about generating, a lot of the conversation is, how do we generate leads? How do we generate more leads? How do we drive people to our website to fill out a form? But there's usually a huge gap between thinking, now what do we do with them after they come in, put their email address on the website or sign up for SMS or some other thing. And this is where nurturing is so critically important. And this nurturing is a big sort of catch-all word for a lot of different things. But basically, it's the way that you can make sure you're maximizing the conversion of that lead into a tour, and also maximizing their engagement with the property so that you have a better chance of converting them once they go on for a tour into a lease. So getting them to book a tour and getting them excited about that tour so you close them. And how you do that is through this, buzzword of nurturing.
And so tactically speaking, nurturing means so many different things to different people. It could be emails, which we'll touch on and talk more about today. It could be text, SMS messages. It could be literally phone calls with a leasing team or leasing representative following up. There's even other apps and services today that you can connect to the renter even ahead of them joining a community. And then furthermore, once you're a part of the community, what are you doing to nurture and keep these residents engaged long-term? Community events, property events, things like that. So lots of good stuff to dive into here. The game plan, though, and how we're approaching this topic of nurturing, again, it relates to a recent conversation we had, and I want to kind of reiterate that funny slogan that I brought up last time, but the idea is activate, CTA, and next step. And so activating the property, bringing it to life in the early aughts of the existence of this building when it's under construction. I've been sharing some things recently on LinkedIn about how that's done well. It's easy to find examples where it's done poorly, but I think finding great examples is just as important. And then giving people an action to complete. What does a renter need to do to get more information? Visit the website, scan the QR code, do something else, be back on a certain date when something's happening. What is that CTA? And then next step, once they do that, give them the details of the property, offer up what's to come next, invite them to be on a list. Really, at this point, you're building intrigue and scarcity, which really just leads into this nurturing game plan. So with that in mind, Mike, talk about, if you would, kind of nurturing 101 from your perspective, because I think in this conversation, we're going to talk both about lease-ups and sell-throughs.
Yeah. And it's similar in both, whether it's a condo sellout or a lease up in a lot of ways. But the difference being is the length of time that you're kind of doing the overall marketing, go-to-market, running the go-to-market playbook, essentially. And so that's the big differentiator, I think, between any given, even if it's from one monthly family to the next, and sort of when you start a project and how the nurturing looks like over that period of time. And so as we both have talked about a lot on this show with others and just in general, is we believe in starting early, right? And so starting the marketing process early, as you said, activate the site, CTA, get them to take a next step. And so having them do that early, this gives you this massive opportunity to nurture. And the question is, what are the nurturing best practices, right? And I think we both consider sort of an email, sort of a monthly or biweekly email that goes out to them to sort of get them and continually engage with the process, with the project over a period of time. And there's so many different sort of tactical bits of content you can do with that as well. For sure, that's one key part. The one thing I would say we recently talked about this too is like there's a couple of things you might want to think about, or others might want to think about too, which is like, can we hit them with a little bit higher cadence when they first sign up? So you give them like a 3 or 4 series kind of sequence to get them to remember the project and kind of give them a little bit more of a welcome to, you're now part of this community building. And then as the construction period is progressing, but you haven't started either pre-sales or pre-leasing yet, you got to kind of nurture them with emails. Could also, again, as you said already, could also be text messages, could also be retargeting ads and different types of things. Of course, what you guys, I know, implement a lot of that and all of that for various projects. Like if we're sticking to email for a second, you do say a monthly or bi-monthly email for the period of time, what you have for this general kind of nurturing to keep the building in their thoughts as they're going about their lives. And then when you get closer, a month or two before you start actually taking tours or sales showing, in the case of a condo, you want to hit them with a sort of a more rapid cadence to get people excited and encourage them to take the next step at that point, which is to book a tour, right? So to do that, so you're sort of moving from the higher level nurturing to the really, how do we drive them to get excited and take this next action step, which is to take a tour. And so generally we've set up like sequences of 10 or even 12 emails or text messages and various things that you can do as part of that sequence to make sure you're converting as much of the lead pool into tours as you can. And also, again, getting them excited, as I mentioned at the beginning. And so that's, again, it's about how to think about this from a phase perspective. And once again, starting early and not having a one size fits all approach throughout the whole sort of cycle is what can maximize your chance to convert as many leads as possible into either sales or leases.
One of the most important things I think that I'm going to pull out from what you just said is that there is not a one size fits all for all of these projects. I think one common misconception is that it has to be one email a month or one email every 6 weeks, or no, it needs to be one email every 2 days so that a prospect is getting just bombarded with emails, for multiple months at a time. In our opinion, it's neither one or the other. There's times where that pitter patter is a little bit more frenetic and that energy is there and you're getting them excited about something. And then there's times during the development life cycle where it is maybe once a month or every couple of weeks. So I want to kind of back into that timeline because I think that's really helpful from a takeaway perspective for listeners and viewers. From a timeline perspective, like you said, we really advocate for as far out as possible. And I'm going to generally start us at about a year out. So like 9 to 12 months out where we're hitting them with this initial awareness layer. At this point, what are we even talking about is a common question. Construction updates, just like high level excitement for the project, big milestones coming up. It's kind of a KISS method, right? Like, it's keep it simple, don't overthink it. There's not, you don't need to really kind of drive at 12 different things right away. But Mike, what would you say for that first kind of quarter, if we had a perfect world and we were nurturing from a year out? What's included in that first 3 months?
Well, even to back up for one second first, I think the key thing to think about in any particular phase of the project, and you're talking about the initial phase here, so to speak, is like, what is the objective at this given phase? And I know you and I have talked about strategy, the fact that it's not just, spray and pray with marketing. It's like, what is your strategy? And then, so on the strategy comes, what are the objectives at this given time? So early on, especially like on a multifamily lease of, let's say, 9 to 12 months out, someone is, not able to pull the trigger. They're living in another home. They're just kind of learning and discovering about this new project. And so I think you want to sort of, start to get them excited about the brand and the essence that is living there. And that's why it's like having that brand and having sort of that engagement with the messaging can be so powerful at that point, to have them really feel like this is a place sort of them and for them. And I think those types of things are nice. And then as you continue down the process of, maybe you're fine tuning the FF&E at some point, and that's getting done around this period of time as well. And you're picking out maybe some of the furniture and the other parts of the amenities and planning those in a more complete fashion. You can then start sharing that information as you are getting people sort of to come along for the ride of what's being designed and built. And so those are the types of things you want to get people. And you could also do some locational marketing or locational information to get them excited about where this property may exist as well, and what the cool things about living in that area are. And those are the primary, I'd say, things of content that you can think about sharing at that at that phase.
No, that's a great point. You kind of started to take the words out of my mouth about this 6 to 9 months out phase, where I feel like the objective here is to bring them into the journey. Give them optionality, get opinions on finishes, ask about amenity preferences as those final decisions and checkboxes are getting checked. Another thing that I really like about that phase, where you're not really close enough yet, but you're also not so far out that you don't have anything to look at. I think starting to show specific changes with the building. Wow, this looks really different from 2 months ago. This is pretty cool. It's coming together. And then to your point, like tying in updates to what their future way of life may be, whether that's like a local community thing. Hey, this weekend the farmer's market was 2 blocks away, or whatever those things are. I think that's like a really great time period to start to sprinkle in what it would be like to live there and start to build that community momentum 6 to 9-ish months out. And then obviously leaning into that much more as we get closer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's so many opportunities. I mean, depending on the size, scope, scale of the potential budget and size of the project, you can start engaging and also doing things like maybe there's an interview with the developer or the operator, right? And get to know or the architect or the interior designer, and start doing these things like, hey, what was the inspiration for the property? Even if it's just in writing type of thing, it doesn't have to be complex video, but there's a lot of content like that you can sort of build to help get prospective renters and or buyers, given whatever the circumstances, to really kind of be engaged with, oh, wow, that actually resonates with me. Now I understand why you designed the building or the common areas or the units like that. And that's like exactly how I like to live. So now I'm getting a little bit excited about this as we go forward here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Wins. Brought to you by Authentic, delivering premier multifamily brand experiences and smart digital marketing. Authentic's proven approach accelerates leasing velocity, boosts rental rates, and increases long-term value. You can find out more at AuthenticFF.com. And by Charlesgate, the multifamily investor's secret weapon to help underwrite, go to market, and operate projects that generate market-beating returns. With an adaptive staffing model and on-demand leasing teams, Charlesgate empowers a better resident experience at an efficient cost structure for today's owners. Visit charlesgate.com for more. And I know that there's folks listening or watching that are frantically taking notes, that are going to take this back to their organizations and try to do it themselves, which I love. And so that's why I want to talk about this idea of scarcity, because I think when you're going to invest in a nurturing game plan like this and have strategy backed behind this kind of marketing effort, I think there needs to be a point where scarcity plays a role to drive leasing velocity and drive interest. And so in my opinion, that really starts to happen 3 to 6 months out from opening. And so what does that mean, like literally? And that could mean things like teasing at reservations, getting people on a list, only such and such units available. You're kind of building a tribe at this point. I hate to call it like a VIP group, maybe more like a founding community member or something like that, where you have like some additional perks for them. I think this is really that time where you start to sort of, okay, you've been planting the seeds, you've been watering the fields, and now it's time to start sort of harvesting the young crop and start to bring them into the fold and get them really excited about the community. What would you say though, Mike, in addition in that like sort of 3 to 6 months out window?
Yeah, and the other thing to think about in that window also is to continue to, sort of build the kind of, whether it's psychographic or their needs profile on these prospective residents, well, even before they might fill an application or an offer to purchase, is like, hey, if you can sort of layer in some ways to get them to respond, like what types of units are you most interested in? What sizes, number of bedrooms, what's your price point and price ranges? And you can give people incentives to fill that stuff out, whether it's early access to the first available units, whether it's, gift cards to the local coffee shop, whether it's things like that you can continue to encourage people to also not just look at the email that gets sent to them, but respond and provide some more sort of information and detail for them for an extra benefit to them is always the best way to do it, to get the most response. So again, early access, you get the, premium units are available only for the people on this list, perhaps, different options, different benefits, it might be a little discount on rent or things like that might come into the very first people, or this exclusive list of people. And there's a number of different ways you could brand it. If people don't like VIP, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but founding member of the community, anything like that is really kind of makes it feel special as well, exclusive and special, and create some scarcity. That can go a long way to really maximizing your initial velocity once tours start to create a little bit of that urgency to help people feel like they are going to get the benefit of making a decision sooner.
Let's land this plane. Let's talk about the 0 to 3 months out. And I have a big asterisk in my notes to kind of come back to and talk about this, because there's a piece of this that has to do with the leasing and sales team being up to speed with what's been done. But let's put a pin in that and come back to 0 to 3 months out, converting sales, converting leases. We're really pivoting at this point to pushing the sale. I think it helps to really share percentages and what's going on at that point to the audience. Hey, we're 40% leased up already, or we're 45% reserved, whatever those numbers might be. I think this is the time to really ratchet up scarcity, while at the same time, in theory, you're really ratcheting up ad spend, and you're increasing the velocity of just opportunities coming in the door anyway. Talk to me about what you think about, whether it's from a sell-through project or not, or otherwise, in those final few months.
Yeah, so even before that, though, I would step back, and whatever the month is, I would say when you're ready to start actually conducting tours, whether it's on-site tours in a sales or leasing center, whatever it might be, before that point, before you might even get to like a 40% lease kind of standpoint, but to get that initial wave of prospects in the door to come in for a tour, I think you can then think about really moving from just this nurturing, quote unquote, standpoint to actually creating a sort of cadence of communication, whether that's emails, SMS, and otherwise, that's going to drive those leads to take action. The action you want them to take at that point is to come in for a tour, right? So the question is, how do you best maximize that and do that? Some of that is the language we already talked about, but otherwise it's really kind of also starting to get them ready that these are when tours are going to be open, be first available, things of that nature to ramp it up, show them specific floor plans and pricing options and different things that are much more closer to the so-called decision to buy, whether it's a lease or purchase a condo. Doesn't have, but really kind of driving them to get into that mode and mindset of shifting. Now, these are going to actually be available to choose from. Now you have the opportunity to do this. You can be one of the first ones to do so, and we're excited to get you in the door to do that. So all this nurturing you've done to get them to continue to ratchet up that interest, ratchet up their enthusiasm of the project. Now is when you're taking that and hopefully converting that enthusiasm into action, which means coming for a tour and get excited about that tour in the first place. So that's where we want to be at that phase of the game. And this is really a much heavier share of combination between the sort of marketing agency teams and the on-site sales or leasing teams to make sure we're working really closely together so that we can best enable, best give a great experience for the people coming in for tours, but also help convert more of those folks into conversions into a lease or sale. And so that's what we're coming at with this objective at this phase, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation. What's the objective of any given phase? And so, yeah, that's what you want to do. And then you want to continue to layer in that excitement of the project, 20%, 10%, 10%, 20%, 40%, 30% leased or sold, and get them kind of excited, showcase, the opportunities early on, for people to come in early, maybe a special like hard hat tours, get them excited, like behind the scenes a little bit, can kind of get them excited to come in for a tour, not just at the leasing center, but like come in, show them the building, show them the unit, have a hard hat tour if you can do that in the jurisdiction and with approval, obviously, and waivers and whatever else might be needed to do those. But those really get people kind of dialed in and excited about coming in. It really can help on pre-leasing and pre-sales for sure. So there's many things you can do, but that's some of the concepts that we've driven in the past.
Yeah, those are great points. And I want to just sort of be devil's advocate to ourselves too, because I can hear it now in the audience, right? There's some grumbling going on. Hey, we don't have the capacity to do this. We don't have our leasing team until 3 weeks before we open, or whatever the issues are. And so this idea of welcoming people in for hard hat tours, or doing the kind of the model unit tours and so forth. I feel like we've seen that generally anywhere from, and I'm going to just paint a broad stroke here and say 2 to 4 months out from opening is kind of like a target window. But, you still have those groups that say, hey, we just can't do that. Like, that seems like it's too much of a heavy load. What would you say to those groups that are just like, nope, it's not going to work for us? How do you work around that, or have you had to work around that in the past?
Yeah, so there's different factors. Our advice is, generally speaking, try not to be penny wise and pound foolish. Like, if you're trying to save money by not engaging your team early enough, whether that's the leasing team, if you've hired an outside marketing leasing agency, or a property manager, whoever's handling the leasing for you at that stage, to not get them on site and working early enough, so that you're just going to wait for 2, 3, 4 months till the building opens to start tours is just crazy, because now you've got several months extra of potential absorption time that you just haven't captured. And the way that we're talking about marketing, nurturing, and conversions, getting started early to get those units pre-leased before the building even opens can dramatically improve cash flow, provides a massively positive return on investment of that money to get marketing and leasing engaged earlier. And so when you can open a building, and we can give examples of opening buildings at 50, 60, 70, 80% pre-leased, 100% pre-sold in many cases, it just pays off in spades. It's a no-brainer to make an investment to get started early. So we definitely say that. Now, the hard part, logistically, there can be some challenges, right? So, because depending on the jurisdiction, depending on what the access might be like at a property at any given stage, how what the inspectional services in any particular space what the general contractor on site might have for a risk appetite to get people walking through a site and on a quote unquote hard hat tour. These are things you deal with on a case by case basis, and we've dealt with this across the board. And generally speaking, though, we've got a process dialed in such that we can get on site early and make it work in a safe and sophisticated manner, so that we're still delivering a really cool experience to see the site, and it converts a lot of people into leases early. And again, this is another one of those cases where you just can't do the same type of thing with, say, automated tours or self-guided tours, of course, at that stage. So, there's so many opportunities that I think developers and investors are shooting themselves in the foot to quote unquote save money rather than invest appropriately to drive a high return investment and much better cash flows earlier, especially in a new development project. That's the answer to the question. Now, the logistics have to be worked out. There are some challenges there, but it's by no means unsolvable. We've certainly been able to work around it many times. So it's virtually a no-brainer to get going early and invest a little bit more money up front for a longer term, or for a faster return and faster cash flows.
Let's wrap up by going back to the pin that we put in earlier about the sort of connectivity between the marketing strategy and the leasing or sales team on site, who may be leading those hard hat tours, who's going to be on site towards the end there. We've talked in previous conversations about how important this idea of sales is truly to close a lease, to close a sale for condos. what advice do you have to listeners and viewers with regards to that connection, right? Because they're not there necessarily for that whole year or even for multiple months. They're kind of coming in and they're taking over what's been established. And from a brand consistency and brand experience perspective, what would you say to those who maybe haven't done this before?
Yeah, I know we have talked about the idea of building kind of a messaging house, so to speak, which is really kind of a summary of what this brand, what the project is all about, what the brand means, the essence of the brand, the messaging, the value proposition, the value statements, the locational value, like the target audiences that we're talking about selling or leasing to, and making sure that the team is trained on these things so that they can, speak the same language, so to speak, as what the marketing has been delivered the whole time in the whole process. And so that's one thing that's key. The other thing is to enable salespeople, leasing people, salespeople, with materials and contents that they can use in their own one-to-one communication with clients as well. So there are many ways to do this, for example. So one of those ways being like having templates set up so that they can send a pre-tour kind of prep for the incoming prospective resident to get them excited about coming in. And same thing with follow-up. And if you can create that, not just have them build something ad hoc on their own, but actually build that is matching the messaging you've already got, that will help kind of continue to resonate that brand and really build that engagement all the way through. And similarly, like even just in some of those later stage emails that are getting people to book an appointment in the first place, there's content like you can do a video of meet the sales team, meet the leasing team on site, so that it builds that trust even before the resident walks in the door, so that they know who they're meeting face to face before they even walk in. It helps build trust, helps close more tours into leases faster than you could otherwise. So many ways to do that. But there's got to be this tight alignment is such a critical piece of actually maximizing the conversion from lead to lease.
Love it. Great conversation. I know this is another one we could talk about for another 45 minutes to an hour easily. So always a pleasure, Mike. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and insights. I know that a lot of people are going to take away a few pages of notes on this one. So thanks for indulging us.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's such a critical piece of the overall go to market strategy that happy to share it. Love to talk about it. So another good one, man. Love talking about this stuff.
Thanks, Mike.
See you, bud.